All right, let's dive into one of the most chilling and honestly just plain weirdest maritime mysteries of all time, the story of the SS Ourang Medan. It's a true ghost ship tale that kicks off with a terrifying radio message and then just ends. I die. Imagine hearing that. These were the last two words anyone ever heard from the Ourang Medan. They came at the end of a frantic SOS call, tapped out in Morse code. And right after that, complete, total silence. So let's set the scene here. The year is 1948. We're in the Strait of Malacca, which is, a super busy shipping lane. The weather's fine, the seas are calm. It's just a totally normal day out on the water, until a radio broadcast cuts through the quiet and changes everything. All of a sudden, radios on ships nearby start crackling with this incredibly disturbing SOS call. The first part of the message says the captain and all the other officers are dead on the bridge. Then, a second message comes through with the ship's coordinates. And finally, there's this garbled, frantic transmission from the radio operator, which ends with those two words, I die. Now, luckily, or maybe unluckily, a nearby American merchant ship called the Silver Star picks up the call. The captain doesn't hesitate. He immediately orders a change of course, and they start racing toward the Ourang Medan's last known position, not knowing what on earth they're about to find. A few hours later, the Silver Star spots it. There it is, the Ourang Medan, just drifting on the horizon. But what they found when they got there was way, way stranger, and a whole lot more terrifying than just a simple shipwreck. As they got closer, the crew of the Silver Star was just confused. The Ourang Medan looked totally fine. I mean, no damage at all. It wasn't on fire. It wasn't sinking. There were no signs of a fight. It was just floating there, perfectly intact. And the silence was just deafening. No smoke coming from its funnels, nobody on the deck, nothing. The captain of the Silver Star is hailing them over the loudspeaker, blasting the ship's horn, and all they get back is the sound of the waves. The whole ship felt like a tomb. So, very carefully, a boarding party from the Silver Star makes its way over and climbs aboard. And what they saw on that deck, well, it would probably haunt them for the rest of their lives. They had just stepped onto a ship of the dead. The scene was like something out of a horror movie. Bodies were everywhere. The captain was dead on the bridge. The radio operator was slumped over his equipment. Every single crew member was dead. And here's the really bizarre part. They were all frozen in this state of absolute terror. Their eyes were wide open, faces twisted, staring up at something no one could see. Even the ship's dog was found dead, snarling. And yet there wasn't a single mark, not one injury on any of them. Okay, so the captain of the Silver Star decides the only thing to do is tow this ghost ship back to port. But just as they're getting the tow lines attached, smoke starts pouring out of one of the cargo holds. The boarding party scrambles to get off the ship and back to their own boat. And not a moment too soon. A huge explosion just tears the Ourang Medan apart. And within minutes, the ship, its dead crew, and all its secrets sank to the bottom of the ocean. And just like that, it was gone. With the ship and any possible evidence at the bottom of the sea, the story became an instant legend. But as the years went on, a really big question started to pop up that cast doubt on the whole thing. I know, it's a shocking question, right? But you have to ask it. If there was no ship ever recovered, no bodies, no wreckage, how do we know this isn't just a classic sailor's yarn? A spooky ghost story told in a port town bar somewhere. And this is where it gets really interesting. On one hand, the skeptics are right. There's no official record of a ship named the Ourang Medan in any shipping registry, like Lloyd's Register. But on the other hand, people who believe the story argue that right after World War II, the seas were full of unregistered black ships doing all sorts of illegal smuggling. And they've got some proof. A Dutch newspaper article from 1954 mentions the story. And get this, so does a declassified CIA document from 2003. So let's just assume for a second that the ship was real. What in the world could have happened to that crew? Over the decades, people have come up with some pretty wild theories to try and explain those silent, terrifying deaths. The theories really run the gamut, from the totally scientific to the strange. The first one is a hazardous cargo leak. Then there's the secret mission theory, which suggests it was part of some shady post-war operation, maybe even tied to biological weapons from Japan's infamous Unit 731. And of course, you have the supernatural theory, that some kind of paranormal force attacked the ship, which might explain the looks of pure terror on everyone's faces. While we'll probably never know for sure, the theory that makes the most sense is a chemical accident. The idea is that the Ourang Medan was smuggling some seriously unstable cargo. Something like potassium cyanide could have mixed with seawater, releasing a toxic gas that asphyxiated the crew almost instantly. Then, another volatile chemical on board, maybe something like nitroglycerin, could have been set off by the initial event, causing the massive explosion that sank the ship and all the evidence for good. So the real story of the SS Ourang Medan is resting at the bottom of the sea. Whether it was just a smuggling trip gone horribly wrong or something else entirely, it's a pretty chilling reminder that the ocean is really good at keeping its secrets. And it kind of leaves you wondering, if an entire ship and its crew can just vanish like that, what other stories are hidden down there in the dark?